action. Living underground. Ninjutsu action. It's a shell of a town. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles need no introduction. What started as a series of joke sketches from some guy's basement and turned into a worldwide phenomenon worth $15 billion, these badass crime-fighting, pizza-loving brothers have protected the streets of New York for nearly 40 years. Everyone has their favorite takes on the Turtles, whether you're an 80s diehard, an 03 contender, a 2012 defender, or a Rise Avenger. Pretty much most of you watching this have had some experience with the franchise at some point in your life. Now for me, I grew up with the 2003 and 2012 incarnations of the Turtles, so I didn't get the chance to experience the boom of the Turtles craze, nor haven't I watched what many people consider the best TMNT film, the 1990 film. I wouldn't experience true turtle power until the Michael Bay films came out, and say what you will about them,
Right?
but those were probably the most fun I had with the TMNT franchise at a young age, and they probably still are to this day. I saw a little bit of Rise recently on Netflix and I stopped immediately after, so I do have a history with the franchise. Now here we are with a new TMNT film for a new generation, produced by Seth Rogen of all people, and directed by Jeff Rowe. It's been a while since the last theatrically released Ninja Turtles movie, and over 15 years since the last theatrical animated Turtles movie. So I thought to myself, why don't I check this movie out and voice my thoughts on it? This video will be heavily different compared to my other usual reviews since this movie is brand new and I just came out of the theater watching it. So expect a bit of less in-depthness and more first impression-ness. Also, spoilers if you really care. So the movie opens up with the riot squad charging into Baxter Stockman's house. You know Stockman, that guy? Stockman is raising a bunch of mutants because in this version he wants to raise a family with mutants. And also found family is like one of the themes of the movie. Hope you're a fan of Baxter Stockman because he's in the movie for like 5 minutes. After that, we get to see the Turtles do what they do best. Ninjutsu action! So to give the movie credit, I actually like the first 20 minutes of the film. I like the pacing in this part a lot, where it shows the Turtles doing their everyday routine while giving a glimpse into their motive in the film. And later, when they meet April, they decide to take out Superfly to become accepted. It's some good stuff, and I think this part provides some decent character building for the Turtles. Too bad everything else about the film is mediocre though. Right, so where do I start with this one? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is one of those movies where I think you're supposed to go in with your brain off and just have fun with it. And you know, I like me some dumb, fun popcorn movies. Michael Bay has effectively built his entire career off of this. Sometimes, all I want in life is just to watch a bunch of epic fight scenes following a loosely put together plot, and this movie definitely has what anyone would want in a TMNT film. But after a little while, the cracks start showing in the shell, and when I was out of the theater, I was like,
I mean, it's alright. Like, overrated as in my opinion. I mean,
if there's one thing I will consistently praise about this movie, it's without a doubt the animation. Anytime there's a fight scene on screen, the movie is great. It feels like I'm in the boom of 2000s cel-shaded games all over again with all these new movies trying these new styles. I love the colors and the grimy sketchbook aesthetic with the animation. It kind of reminds me of the classic black and white comics that the Turtles debuted in. It makes New York City feel lived in and dirty, and the fight scenes especially are energetic and fun and fast paced and take advantage of the low frame rate effect we see in films like Puss in Boots and Spider-Verse. I can only imagine the grueling effort it must have took to make these fight scenes possible, and oh hey look, the animators weren't overworked to death and back, which automatically makes this movie better than Across the Spider-Verse. Thanks Seth Rogen! At least that's one good thing he learned from Sausage Party. Speaking on the art style, I'm kind of mixed on the new designs of this film, however. The Turtles look pretty good. They strike a fine balance between the classic TMNT designs and what looks like the 2012 Turtles, where they look classic but they still remain distinct. But the Mutant Gang in particular is kind of mixed bag. I especially hate Bebop and Rocksteady. Like Splinter's asshole, what did they do to you guys? Their heads are just too big. It looks like they took the heads of these designs and just stretched them out in Photoshop. They just don't look right, especially compared to the other mutants. I get that they're supposed to be big and towering, but this is just too far. April's new design is a hot point of contention of this film, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't really like this design. I don't hate it just doesn't look good. She looks like IRL Puppy-chan, and I still can't get over how they made a worse Black April than Rise of the TMNT. Also, I'm just gonna say it, but these humans look like ass. I see people talk shit about April O'Neil, but when looking at everyone else, she looks like a completely normal person by comparison. Some of the humans look fine. Like, Baxter Stockman is pretty acceptable, but why doesn't anyone mention how every human in this movie looks like they somehow contracted Tasmanian facial tumor disease? They have these like bloated, sometimes stretched out facial features that make them all look like malformed blobs of clay. It only works for Baxter Stockman in my opinion because he's a mad scientist living in a basement. Of course he would look ugly. Aside from those shitty humans, the animation in this movie looks pretty good. The highs are really high, but the lows are really low. You know, with a lot of these cel-shaded movies I'm seeing, there's always a drawback. Like Puss in Shoots, you get a bad shot. In Nimona, you get bad lighting, and in TMNT, you get bad humans. Comedy-wise, this movie is honestly kind of obnoxious. Well, I actually laughed at a few of the jokes in this movie. I like the milking gag, but this movie has that kind of Rick and Morty, inside job, Reddit, Joss Whedon reference humor where they spout a bunch of references like sus that seem to exist so that Seth Rogen can win a contest for who can date the most movie by the next 5 years. These jokes were funny in the first like 30 minutes, but after that, they just become obnoxious, and it comes across as desperate Gen Z pandering, like I'm watching one of those early 2010s kids comedy movies that reference shit like The Wii or Guitar Hero. You know the ones. Like, I find this kind of humor funny every now and then, but internet comedy does not translate well when it's middle-aged men making a movie for kids. If it was your goal to make the Turtles feel like actual teenagers, then congrats, you made them Zoomers. I could see the style of humor coming out of Michelangelo, but here, it feels like they gave all the Turtles the personality of Michelangelo. Not only do the Turtles in this film come off as annoying and try hard, but personality-wise, they all feel indistinct from each other. Mikey only works in my opinion when he has someone to bounce off of. I think this was achieved perfectly with the 2012 Mikey. I get that he's everyone's favorite turtle, but that doesn't mean all the Turtles have to act like Mikey. I'm not against changes in characterization, I'm against bad changes. That's kind of the same reason I stopped watching Rise of the TMNT after 20 episodes. Whoops, I shouldn't have said that. I might be biased because I grew up with the 2012 Ninja Turtles show more than any of the other ones, but I would have preferred it if they had their personalities from that version. You can still make them act like teenagers if that was your goal, but like dial it down a bit. Show some restraint to the cringe. What's next? In the sequel, are they gonna name drop Friday Night Funkin' and Skibbity Toilet? Oh god, don't give them ideas. Okay, what else is there? Oh yeah, the movie's whole message is that the Ninja Turtles want to be accepted into society, but they can't because, you know, they're fucking mutants, which is at least something I can get behind. I can understand it. I can at least understand it more than what Nimona was trying to go with. But much like Nimona or Transformers Rise of the Beast, this movie suffers from what I like to call Skywalker syndrome, or rush pacing, where it can't sit on an emotional moment for more than a minute or two because it needs to get to the next action scene. You need to enjoy the movie, so here's some more fighting and funnies. It's not as bad as Rise of Skywalker, but it's still an issue I had with the film. Like I said, I love me some big dumb action movies, but this movie just can't help itself take a break for more than 2 minutes. It's like it has ADHD or some shit. This makes the development in this movie feel kinda contrived. Like during the final battle, the other mutants decide to help out in the end, even though most of them never got enough spotlight. And at one scene in the movie, I'm just left asking, what the hell did the Turtles learn up to this point? Like, I think even the most hardcore fans agreed that the 1990 movie did the whole Turtles want to be accepted into society thing a lot better. But I can at least say that this movie tries to humanize the Turtles a lot better than the Michael Bay movies. I actually like Splinter's plotline in this film, with him trying to reconnect with his sons or some shit, and then adopting all the mutants at the end. That was pretty wholesome. They also go over the Turtles' backstory in this as usual. The big major change from this is that Splinter's just some random rat that roamed the sewers and got mutated. And the Turtles learn ninjutsu how, you asked? They watch some movies in the sewers. I'm not kidding, they actually watch movies in the sewers, and that's how they learn ninjutsu. To be honest, I always preferred it when Splinter was some sensei guy that turned into a giant rat and taught the Turtles himself. It just makes more sense that way. Can I also bring up the soundtrack of this movie? I absolutely love the punk-esque soundtrack in this film. It kind of gives off a 90s vibe, and it's probably my favorite part of the movie besides the animation. I might listen to it every once in a while, it's pretty boppin'. I can't really say much about the characters. Like I said, the Turtles are kinda obnoxious. Fan favorite characters like Casey Jones are not in this one. Neither is Krang, not even Shredder save for the mid-credits tease. Apparently they didn't make Shredder the villain because he couldn't relate to the Turtles?
What?
Like, that's just fucking stupid. But hey, all these guys will probably show up in that upcoming TV show, or even the sequel. April O'Neil is just there. She doesn't really do much throughout the whole story. Bebop and Rocksteady are in this, and aside from one action scene, they don't really do much throughout the movie, and I'm pretty sure they're just there so that Seth Rogen can flex how many actors he can get into a TMNT film. Every time these guys were on screen, I wish I was watching TMNT Out of the Shadows instead. In fact, the same sentiment can basically be applied to the other mutants in Superfly's gang. Mondo Gecko is probably my favorite of all of them simply because Paul Rudd carries this character with his performance. If they wanted to integrate these mutants, they should have made them working henchmen, like how Bebop and Rocksteady were integrated in Out of the Shadows, instead of using a bunch of random humans that I don't even know the names of. Also, I think it's really funny how they changed Scumbug from a he to a she in this movie so that they can hook her up with Splinter, only for people to accuse this movie of pushing a fucking gay agenda. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Superfly. Superfly is a really weak-ass villain. He's voiced by Ice Cube, which I honestly think was just poor casting. They should have just kept Giancarlo Esposito's voice. Ice Cube doesn't give this villain a near-threatening presence. He's mostly just cracking jokes and one-liners just like the Turtles, which made it near impossible to take this villain seriously. His motive is similar to the Turtles in that he too wants to be accepted by society, but he goes to extreme lengths to make that happen. So they're really pulling the whole, we're not so different, you and I stuff. Like, I think that's a really good premise for a villain, but it's really half-baked by Ice Cube's terrible performance. Oh yeah, there was also this doctor woman with a German accent. I don't know her name because I almost forgot about her after watching this film. She's after the Turtles so that she can milk them and replicate Baxter's mutagen serum. They have this milking bit as a recurring gag throughout the movie, and she actually milks them when she captures the Turtles, which I honestly thought was pretty funny. The voice acting for this movie was kinda mediocre, by the way. The celebrity cast was just there. I hate Seth Rogen as Bebop because all I hear from him is the Sausage Party guy. Hollywood, please, stop putting Seth Rogen in your animated movies. He was good in Invincible and Kung Fu Panda only. Thank you. Namaste. And John Cena as Rocksteady is honestly such wasted talent. Like, how do you waste John Cena and Giancarlo Esposito? The only performances I liked in this movie was Paul Rudd as Mono Gecko, Jackie Chan as Splinter, which I think is a little weird casting a Chinese guy as a Japanese rat, but whatever, and unsurprisingly, the Turtles. I was against the idea of making the Turtles sound like young kids, because they would have been hella obnoxious, and they are in this film, but I think they give off decent performances in this one. Especially the kids that play Leo and Raph. The kid that plays Leo is the same one that voices Gumball and reacted to Banjo in Smash Brothers, Junkie Janker.
Who else can they add?
Also, this might be a hot take, but I f***ing hate Donnie's voice. They should have given that voice to Mikey since I think it's canon that he's the youngest turtle, and him with that voice would have been more fitting. This one just kinda doesn't fit Donnie at all, and it just comes off as annoying. So yeah, those are my thoughts on TMNT Mutant Mayhem. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had with this movie, to be sure, don't get me wrong, and like, you shouldn't let my opinion discourage you from enjoying this film. But I don't think I really enjoyed it as much as something like TMNT 12 or even Michael Bay's Turtles. Because at least Michael Bay's Turtle movies knew how to deliver the dumb fun movie experience on his level. Is this movie terrible? No. It's not the worst movie to come out this year. Hell, it's far from the worst Turtles movie. Is it better than Michael Bay's Turtles? Well, objectively, yeah. Anything is better than Michael Bay's Turtles. There's plenty of things I like about this movie, and who knows, maybe my opinions will change when this movie comes out on digital. But until the sequel comes out, I am going to remain cautiously optimistic. I'm more so worried about how they're going to handle the Shredder, since in this incarnation he seems to have no connection to Splinter or Hamato Yoshi, but I'm just going to leave that for a different argument. I know Gen Zers and little kids will love this movie, I'll tell you that much. Right now, I am going to rate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem a 5.5 out of 10. Cowabummer, dude.